The 96th annual Oscars show is nearly upon us, so let's rank the Best Picture nominees. Hey everyone, welcome to Cinema, where we focus on a film. I'm Josh, this is Simply Cinema, and today we're going to be ranking the 10 Best Picture nominees picked by the judges. And so let me know down in the comments below how you would rank these films from your least favorite to your favorite, as we all share film subjective opinions here on this channel. Be perfectly honest and no judgment made as we make a nice lively discussion. Be sure to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, help me join in and build up this film culture community that we just here to talk about the love of movies. But going into the last place, we have Poor Things. Now, this is a film I love. I appreciate many of the great elements putting into this to create some great cinematography. The actress Emma Stone gives off one of her best performances that I've seen. Mark Ruffalo, great side actor for this. The story is quite interesting, clever in all of its wit and glory, but unfortunately, I'm just not into the explicit nudity presented on screen, how they have so many sex scenes throughout, what they do with that, and the trauma that they put through this mental ill girl that they sort of do with the science experiments, and how they put her and subject her to all of that, and what the theme that comes out of this film is just not particularly my taste. It's kind of discussing in some sort of ways just what I take out of it. I still highly appreciate what this film has to offer, but unfortunately it just does not fit well for me at the end of the day. But coming in at number 9, we have The Zone of Interest. Now, this is a really well-rounded film just for what it's after, except I wasn't totally aware of how it was going to approach this subject, just going into the Nazi camp and the Auschwitz, the ideas of around World War II, around the gassing Jews, and how they're doing that. It just goes over a softer way of approaching the subject in a way that can't necessarily be dealt with, but the cinematography, how the cameras were sold out and playing out almost in real time for several different scenes, and just many still shots that captured essence of cinema, moving from room to room and having a camera that's already set up, was captured in such a grand way, and yet the subject itself wasn't too pleasant, especially as it got near the end. I didn't know how much it was going to show, and so it wasn't going too far as I was expecting, in some sense, just knowing what the topic was. But it was still disturbing, still have that vibe that if you know the subject matter, and pretty much everyone would, it's difficult to wrap your head around this subject, how it's flowing out, and the horror of the real life circumstances happening in the background of the family we're focusing on, the man we're focusing on. Is just makes it a harder watch, even if it is a less exposed sequence of what is really going on. And coming in number 8, we have Barbie. Now, this is a fun and lively experience, just getting all of these fun mannerisms throughout these great songs, Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling giving some fun performances, and that's just really what the fun is about. And having these darker themes mixed in makes it really clever and witty just for its own means. But unfortunately, some of the mannerisms with the themes are shoved down your throat, mentioned like kind of a bit too many times, almost trying to explain the whole theme to you, as if we aren't always getting that it's about feminism and it's about certain aspects to that nature. And I don't necessarily mind the aspects of that scene that on screen, but the way that it clarified it and tried to re-explain itself over and over it just felt like it was way too much at certain points. Coming in number 7, we have Maestro. Now this is so grand for the performance Bradley Cooper puts on as the actor, as the director for this film, making it a so clever film, well directed. The story flows at a snail's pace, but it still pays off in some of the grand gestures it does. And while it doesn't necessarily feel like it's filled with all the right substance that really keeps it going, it still has the right payoff for certain scenes that really sing to the atmosphere that it is building up, for the performance and the dramatic scenes that it is all filled in with. The music is something to really make it all worth it, really sing to what this film is speaking to. And so therefore, despite its slow nature, it has something that really speaks to its own levels. And coming in number 6, we have Past Lives. Now this is a different sort of romance film about this couple in China that they go on 2 different directions at a certain point of their life where they could have had a romance, they could have had a deeper connection, and they meet 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, and get into this different sort of embrace, but they're at a different point of their lives where they don't quite have the exact same connection, and just that slight change in their choices made makes it to be something that's emotional, that you can get connected to why they could have been together and the regret that they kind of might be having. And so you're getting into intimacy of this dynamic between these characters, and it doesn't quite flow at the pace that I would like it to, but it still has the story that really builds it up to be something different. Well, coming in at number 5, we have Anatomy of a Fall. Now this is a court drama about this woman where there's a fall where her husband ends up dying and they accuse her, think it's her. There's not necessarily any particular witnesses, and so just the flow of the story, it isn't the fastest film, but it still goes about in a nice pace that builds itself up, builds these characters, establishes the setting, establishes how she is trying to get out of this accusation through the courts, and just building up some great scenes, great performances, and a great lively atmosphere all throughout that has memorable scenes that really stand out. And coming in number 4, we have American Fiction. Now, I just enjoyed this film as an author myself. What they have to do with this fictional tale, just being self-aware about this author that's trying to write his own nature, but is not quite recognized for the black man he is. And so he writes in a different nature and suddenly becomes famous just for how bold and adventurous he is, even though he's not trying to take it seriously of what he's doing, trying not to become famous because of that, and the shenanigans and the comedy satire that all flows throughout makes for a jolly good time that is fun, and it has all of these different comedy gistiques that really stand out, really help this film drive the flow home, and really goes about a different sort of take and having an ending that's quite interesting, yet all the same, for its own ambition and meta nature, I still kind of enjoy for what it's after. And coming in number 3, we have The Holdovers. Now this is a drama that's heavy, but Paul Giamatti and all of the other performances that come into play within this has some great sequences. It's a bit slow, but I just enjoy the atmosphere they build for this teacher that is stuck in school, this one student, and this other cafeteria worker that gets stuck in school over the winter, and just the atmosphere that builds from that, the dynamic relationship that builds from the chemistry between them. They're like polar opposites, but find similarities within each other as they get to know each other, as they find ways that they're forced to learn about each other. establishes such a warm hug around you, builds a comfort film that's so great that you can watch every Christmas from now on, or even at any point, because of the lovely atmosphere that makes it a heavy watch in some regard, but something that's still digestible in all of the right means. And coming in number 2, we have Killers of the Flower Moon, where Americans are taking advantage of Native Americans through these Osage murders and what they're having to do to gain the oil from this environment. Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Lily Gladstone all give off great performances, what they have to offer. Even for the 3.5-hour runtime, it is well deserving of what it all has to offer. Martin Scorsese does another great job directing this lengthy film that really pays off for all of the nature of the story that it's telling, the build-up of the characters, of the scheme, of the background setting, of the development of the detective plots, of how he's trying to get into play, of how he's trying to find out and accuse what is going on behind the scenes, behind the Osage murders, and how they play that out becomes something so much more and visually stunning for certain choice scenes, especially, that really stands out to be something else, making this to be one of the better films of this list that we have. But that leaves at number 1, Oppenheimer from Christopher Nolan, creating another masterpiece for its time, a visual experience on screen at home and in the theater, of course. I just really enjoy this one upon rewatch. It's a heavier film in some regard. It is dense with the nature of having a ton of dialogue and specific court scenes and having all of these different non-chronological order where there's 3 different sequences happening at once, and it's still able to really follow along with what it's going for, especially upon rewatch, as you get to understand more of the nature. And even if I don't necessarily understand all of the deep science and all of the lore building the bomb and all of how the different technical details come into play with law or other aspects, it becomes intriguing by the suspense and the music score, the actors and their performances, how they all come into play, bringing in the great cinematography, great set designs, and all the atmosphere that this film builds the choice lighting, makes it to be something stellar, something different, and the number 1 film of the Best Picture nominees that I have. So that's just my ranking of Best Picture nominees. Let me know down in the comments below how you would rank the Best Picture nominees for the 96th Annual Oscars show, as we anticipate what will be the winner ultimately. So that's just all. Make sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.